To speak about the 1990s without speaking about Kate Moss is to misunderstand the decade's most radical aesthetic shift, because her influence was not merely commercial or editorial, but atmospheric, almost philosophical, altering the visual metabolism of fashion at a moment when it was exhausted by its own excess. Born in Croydon and discovered as a teenager in an airport, an origin story that feels almost mythological in its ordinariness, Moss entered an industry still reverberating with the grandiose afterglow of the late 1980s, when supermodels embodied Amazonian physicality, lacquered glamour, and cinematic invincibility, and she dismantled that monumentality not through confrontation, but through subtraction, through a disarming slightness, a translucently pale presence, a face that seemed mutable rather than immaculately fixed. Propelled into notoriety by stark, minimal campaigns for Calvin Klein, she became the visual axis around which a new austerity revolved, aligning uncannily with recession-era introspection, grunge disillusionment, and post-Cold War ambiguity. Her narrow, angular frame resisted the sculptural athleticism of her predecessors, and instead suggested fragility, androgyny, urban fatigue, a kind of deliberate understatement that felt culturally synchronized rather than stylistically accidental. This was not merely a shift in body type, but a recalibration of fantasy itself. Moss did not project unattainable grandeur. She projected proximity, intimacy, the sense that beauty might reside in imperfection, asymmetry, the fleeting expression that passes across the face before it can be corrected. Critics hastily labeled the aesthetic surrounding her as decadently undone. Yet what truly distinguished it was its rejection of hyper-feminine armor in favor of smudged eyeliner, unbrushed hair, languid posture, garments that seemed slipped on rather than ceremonially donned. In photographs by collaborators such as Corinne Day, she appeared not as an untouchable goddess, but as a girl in a cramped apartment, sprawled across unmade sheets, her vulnerability aestheticized, yet palpably human, the camera no longer worshiping from below, but observing from within, collapsing the distance between icon and observer. Her presence resonated with the cultural tectonics of the decade, the raw distortion of Kurt Cobain, the anti-glamour defiance of Courtney Love, the thrift store romanticism of grunge, the muted realism of independent cinema. And she became the corporeal bridge between high fashion and street disaffection, between luxury branding and secondhand nonchalance, proving that a slip dress could feel both decadent and accidental, that a leather jacket could signal insouciance rather than aggression, that a body could be powerful precisely because it appeared unguarded. Designers recalibrated accordingly. Silhouettes narrowed, palettes desaturated, fabrics thinned into near weightlessness. The runway adopted a studied nonchalance, as though effort itself had become unfashionable. And Moss's peculiar elasticity, her ability to appear ethereal in one editorial, sharply androgynous in the next, decadently luminous under different lighting, made her less a fixed persona than a responsive surface onto which the decade projected its contradictions. Even her public turbulence, magnified by tabloids, contributed to the mythology rather than dismantling it, reinforcing the sense that she was not a sealed monument of perfection, but an organism moving through culture in real time, a muse and a mirror simultaneously, embodying a generation's mistrust of Polish and its hunger for authenticity. What makes her influence enduring is not simply that she defined a look, the slip dress, the skinny scarf, the languid tailoring, but that she redefined aspiration itself, rendering understatement aspirational, normalizing fragility, making insouciance appear instinctive rather than engineered. She anticipated the 21st century's obsession with curated spontaneity, with the illusion that style occurs accidentally rather than architecturally. The 1990s, in retrospect, feel less glossy and more grainy, less monumental and more psychologically textured. Because Moss recalibrated the lens through which fashion was seen, shifting it away from spectacle toward intimacy, from domination toward ambiguity, and in doing so, she altered not only the silhouette of a decade, but the emotional vocabulary of modern beauty. What makes Kate Moss's legacy particularly compelling is not merely the visual vocabulary she established, but the philosophical undertone she imparted to fashion itself, demonstrating that influence need not rely on spectacle or monumental presence, but can emerge from subtlety, mood, and the art of suggestion. Throughout the decade, Moss functioned as a lens through which cultural contradictions could be observed and reconciled, embodying the tension between vulnerability and strength, imperfection and refinement, intimacy and aspiration, and in doing so, she challenged not only the parameters of beauty, but also the mechanisms by which fashion communicates meaning. Her collaborations with photographers, designers, and artists created a feedback loop in which her body, her posture, and her gaze were simultaneously the subject and the instrument of interpretation, transforming the act of modeling into a kind of performative philosophy, a meditation on how presence can manipulate perception. Beyond editorial pages and advertising campaigns, Moss's influence extended into the very aesthetics of urban life, permeating street style, music videos, and cultural imagery that blurred the boundary between private and public, casual and curated. She showed that the gestures of everyday life, slouching against a wall, slipping on a jacket, a careless tilt of the head, could become codified into visual grammar, a syntax that communicated mood, social attitude, and cultural literacy all at once. Furthermore, the psychological resonance of her image cannot be understated. Moss communicated a kind of ethical ambiguity, a refusal to be reduced to moral binaries, inviting viewers and fashion consumers alike to negotiate their own perceptions of desirability, autonomy, and authenticity. In the broader context of 1990s fashion, this represented a fundamental shift, as designers and editors increasingly embraced uncertainty, nuance, and imperfection as vital components of aesthetic value, understanding that Moss's appeal derived precisely from her ability to inhabit contradictions, to appear effortless yet intentional, delicate yet compelling, present yet elusive. Decades later, the reverberations of her influence are evident not merely in trends that recycle slouchy tailoring, slip dresses, or minimalist campaigns, but in the very philosophy of contemporary fashion, which prizes narrative, atmosphere, and effect over spectacle, accessibility over monumentalism, and psychological texture over overt ornamentation. Kate Moss did not simply define an era. She codified a way of seeing, a way of interacting with clothing, with image, and with cultural expectation. A subtle but enduring recalibration of the visual and emotional logic of modern style, ensuring that even when the industry turns toward innovation or excess, there remains a reference point, a quietly subversive paradigm in which beauty is as much about mood and presence as it is about measurement or construction, and where the smallest gestures, the tilt of a shoulder, the fall of a hem, the glance of an eye, carry the weight of an entire decade's aesthetic and cultural consciousness. In this way, Moss's legacy is not frozen in nostalgia but continues to circulate, informing contemporary models, photographers, and designers who seek to balance imperfection and control, intimacy and spectacle, demonstrating that the power of fashion lies not in domination, but in the subtle orchestration of presence, narrative, and effect. A lesson as profound and necessary now as it was in the decade she helped define.